Hello, my name is Josh Banner. I am the founder and the director of the Invitation Center. Our mission is to create time and space for God at the vital intersection of contemplation and justice. And it's on the precipice here of Easter, just a few days away from Palm Sunday. And this is incredible timing to get the word out about this new doctorate of ministry cohort that Keith, Michelle, and in this podcast episode, my long-term collaborator, Cami Beecroft-Mann, joins us. We are the 4 core faculty who will be teaching in this very ecumenical journey. So in order to get the word out and to open this conversation to other learners, we are embarking on a series of new podcast initiatives. And so for this first episode, Michelle is going to open us to a reading that she believes can help us do this integration, this work between the inner self and the just self. And then the next subsequent episodes, we will spend time with Cami's reading, and then Keith, and then finally mine. And then we'll probably come back around, keep doing some more podcasting. So if you are someone who has considered the formal practice of spiritual direction and you wanted certification, this program is one avenue into certification. Or if you're someone who's already called to justice work of advocating for those who have less, the least of these, how will you nourish and sustain that prophetic work and that ministry? So please send any of your interest. Probably the best way is to reach me first. You can find me at josh@theinvitationcenter.org. We're so excited for you to be joining us. Please do feel free to send us your thoughts and your questions.
What are they laughing about? If you only knew.
We are delighted to be in each other's presence in any shape or form. Yeah. So the task at hand is to attempt a conversation around some texts that we each have gathered. These are passages that we have discerned will help us, are helping us, and maybe help shape the imagination for what is the vital intersection of contemplation and justice. And in this context, we're focusing on racial justice. In this very painful context, what does it mean to love our neighbor as ourselves? The larger question is, how do we form people that can listen well? We could think about that in the classic vocabulary of spiritual direction. Honestly, I don't care what you call it. Mm-hmm. If you call it spiritual direction, contemplative listening, anam cara, spiritual friend, the question is, do we know how to decenter ourselves to hear God in other people and to recognize the sacred dignity of who they were created fearfully and wonderfully? So I've gathered some of my favorite, actually you are literally my favorite, no pressure, conversation partners that I've been walking with you guys for years, learning how to figure out this question of practicing Jesus through listening, through neighborliness. You've each had substantial impact on the way that I understand what that means, how I can imagine, not just for what that means for Josh Banner, but if we think of there is a thing called the church, what that would mean for the body of Christ. So as we warm up, Dr. Michelle's going to get us started here. And I already used your title, and you'd asked me specifically to not refer to you as Dr. Michelle.
And you said it again.
And I said it again. So that's a good laugh at Josh, because I wasn't obviously listening well enough.
There you go.
So
okay.
why don't we just go around and how would you like to be known today?
Oh, yeah. I would like to be known as Michelle Loyd-Paige.
Yeah.
Who is, and also that I'm really grateful to be a part of this community. This is a bit of a stretching for me in my own comfort zone, if I'm being transparent. And so I just appreciate the safety that I feel being here in this place, to be able to be vulnerable, seen, and heard.
Yeah.
I am Cami Beecroft Mann. And there is something about being known as Cami Beecroft Mann, which is that growing edge for me. So to be able, to be able to show up in the freedom of who that is in this moment in time, knowing that's still in transition. And that's the beauty, I think, of a gathered space like this, is that as I am present in the way that you've invited me to be here, and the way that I have the relationship newly forming, there's also this way it washes back on my own heart space, to being attuned to who I am and who the grace of God is in that moment. So there's a becomingness. There's the rough edge of the beingness in a space like this, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also this profoundly beautiful becomingness. And so in some ways I'm delighted to see who I am.
Yeah.
Especially in the context of a warm, curious space like this that welcomes. So,
Keith Reynolds, and I am delighted to be a part of this this moment with all of you. Some of you I know more so than others, but what I've encountered in you all makes me feel safe, and I have great anticipation that this is going to be a dope experience. Right?
Yes.
And so, but I do acknowledge that I am the husband of Leanne Reynolds and the father of Anissa, Isaiah, Aliana, Gabby, Elijah, and Nevaeh. They are my 6 kids, and they are my primary context for formation, and how I aspire to show up in the world as someone who advocates for the dignity of all of God's people. These are things I'm learning in my primary context with my crumb snatchers, i.e. my kids, and my beautiful bride. They shape me into who I am, and
It is good to sit here. We were just talking about this shift in culture from audio podcasts to video podcasts. And if anything, the excuse to sit down in a room with you and to be in our bodily form. The title for this series that I've come up with is also part of the title for the doctoral program, which is a line from Dr. Jennings' talk that he gave here at Hope College last fall, A New Reality in Belonging. And he unpacks that in his commentary on Acts, and thinking about the work of the Spirit. It's really awkward and strange. He says, on one hand, is to invite us to do things we don't want to do. And that could be used as spiritual manipulation. But if it's really the Spirit is inviting us to, as Jennings would say, to cross certain cultural boundaries.
Absolutely.
To go out of our way to meet the other.
Absolutely.
And so, if anything, this new reality and belonging, contemplation and justice, how do we hold these things together? Well, it's in ourselves, in our bodies, and how we bring our bodies into contact with other bodies. And that is very much the way Jennings would talk about this. So I just want to honor with reverence the gift of being able to sit here with you. If there's anything that I want to bear witness in the world, is these are my friends. These are my learning partners. And in many ways, that could be like, we don't need to add a title. We're just here. Stop. That was it. That was it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What goes back in my mind is I would, my studies in ministry class that I used to teach, I would ask students, what's your definition of ministry? And we'd write down things, discuss it. And then my joke, but seriously, was I'd walk out of the room and then I'd walk inside. I'd say, here it is. Here's ministry.
Yeah.
So that's the audacity that we're entertaining here. So this community, if that's what I can say with audacity in my singular self, it is especially true in the context of sharing this space with you.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, would you get us started by leading us through the reading that you have chosen?
Be happy to. The reading that I chose is called Hope with Receipts, A Womanist Search for God in Times of Crisis. The Reverend Dr. Renita J. Weems posted this in her Substack back in June 2025. And while I would be excited to read the whole thing, I think I'll just read the latter part of it because I think it captures really what grabbed my heart. And it says this: that's what I hold on to in these dark times, what I call hope with receipts, a grounded, eyes wide, open kind of hope. It's sustained by thinkers, podcasters, truth tellers I follow, whose sharp analysis and moral clarity remind me that resistance is alive and well. Their voices help me believe that change isn't just possible, it's already stirring. The future isn't about choosing between faith and politics, tradition and transformation. It's about what happens when we refuse to fragment ourselves, bringing our whole selves, sacred and radical, faithful and fierce, to the work of liberation. Where is God in times like these? God is in the resistance. God is in the truth-telling. God is in the refusal to let darkness have the last word. God is in the network of people working for justice, in the voices decrying fascism, in the stubborn insistence that another world is possible. That's what womanism offers. Not easy answers or spiritual bypassing, but conviction that God specializes in the impossible. And in the times like these, we're working on some serious impossibilities. The changes we are praying for won't happen overnight or through grand gestures alone. They'll emerge gradually through countless small acts of resistance, often unnoticed, sometimes unsung, but always necessary, with help from above. That's how transformation has always worked, and that's how it will work now. So I'll keep reading, keep listening, keep praying, keep preaching, keep teaching, keep supporting those doing the work. Because if people of faith in the Bible and in modern times have taught me anything, it's that the question, where is God, usually gets answered not with a voice from heaven, but with ordinary people doing extraordinary things in impossible times. Almost feels like I should say, and this is the word of the Lord, but
Amen.
we will keep on.
That'll take up an offering.
I know. Altar call and offering. So one of the things that I appreciate about this essay, for me, it's a good example of this practice of contemplation at the intersection of social justice, doing justice work, and listening. Because to me, it's an invitation to deeply listen to people who are often not listened to. Earlier in this essay, she talks about the difference between feminism and womanism, and how womanism was a response to the missing voices of Black women in feminism, right? So listening, it was the listening to Black women that birthed womanism. she also provides a story that I really hadn't known before reading her essay, that when we think about the Montgomery bus boycott, what comes to mind are men like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who led the Montgomery bus boycott and did all these things. But she said, actually, it was the women who were organizing it and making sure that it happened. But history doesn't present that well. You know, you have to really, really dig. And so for me, this practice of sitting in community, sitting with people who we might think we have something in common with. I mean, it would be easy, since this is visual, for people to think, Keith and I have a whole lot in common because we both identify as African American, or that Cami and I have a whole lot in common because we both identify as female. However, it could be that if we sit down and deeply listen, there are some nuances to our stories that is like, didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that coming, right? But if we're listening to those nuances, then we have a better understanding of where are people coming from? What are their hopes? What have been their barriers? What have been their moments of triumph? What has been their inspiration? So it's in that deeply listening well, not leading with assumptions. This is the box that I'm going to put you in, but deeply listening, not only to one another, but deeply listening to, how is God saying to listen to this person, to respond to this person, to engage with this person, to be with this person, right? So I think there are some lessons in how do we listen well to people who might be different from us or coming from a different space, right? Hearing the term womanist, that I know a whole lot of people say, nope, can't do that. It can't be godly. You know, not gonna do it. Oh, you're one of those kind of people. No, let's listen. I'm not saying I'm taking everything, but I wouldn't take everything that every Christian says either.
That's a fact.
Right? So just that kind of listening. But I appreciate this invitation to listen well as we think about how do we do this justice work. Who's missing from the conversation? If we're going to advocate for justice, if we're going to practice justice for who? And how are you going to do it? Are you assuming what justice will look like? Or are you listening for what justice would feel like for someone? And are we paying attention to that? So I appreciate this because it's bringing a voice that is sometimes left out of conversations, especially the voice of women. As a woman that's an ordained woman, that's something that is really important to me because that often gets left out, except for Women's Day. Right. Special day. So that's what I appreciate, and I think that's what is helping me as I think about how can I do better at practicing deep listening as I do this work of justice. And one of the ways is expanding my circle of infection, or at least expanding the community of people that I'm in conversation with, which this group is helping me to do.
There's so much to unpack from the reading and then all that you've illuminated through your reading of it. Cami, is there something specific that you're hearing that you'd like to respond to?
Yeah, I keep thinking about the times that community gets formed around commonality. What do we have in common? Let's just be with what we have in common. Can we agree we have things in common?
Yep.
And sometimes that runs the risk of being an affinity group, not deep community.
That's good.
Right? If it's left at what we have in common.
Yep.
And then it begins to create the space that says we have to keep this in common if we're going to be community.
Wow. Yes. Oh, that's good.
Wow.
And what I hear and what you're bringing is that the deeper community is in our difference, our diversity, our unique, our gift, our stories, our experiences. And when we have the opportunity to build community from that space, there's a presencing of reality in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimate reality and the ordinary. I love the way that she ends this, right? That where is God? You're going to ask the question, where is God? Probably not pronounced from up here, but just in the fact that we're sitting shoulder to shoulder,
Right, right.
looking at each other eye to eye, or hearing a tone of voice and seeing a facial expression, right? The extraordinariness of that ordinary. And I hear you and you're sharing, Michelle, welcoming the myriad of diversity.
Yeah.
And being seen, right? And that's part of the community. I know the part where she says, in bringing forward her undivided self, right?
Yes.
To be able to feel like you can bring your undivided self, and it's okay. That's what I like about this particular space right here, right now, is that I can bring my undivided self, and it's okay. It's risky.
It is.
It's risky because before before we started recording, you all liked me.
We still do.
Right. Now it might be, I don't know. But to be able to, there's a sacredness in being able to risk that. Right. And so there's a mutual vulnerability. There's a mutual learning. And at the same time, knowing that that's not possible in all places. But I think if we're inviting people to think about spiritual direction, sitting with people, sitting with other people, to be able to discern and recognize, am I allowing people to be their full selves? Or do I want people to only show up in a way that makes me feel comfortable?
On one hand, we want to say radically that we want to belong to ourselves, to really see ourselves, to trust ourselves. But what we're saying here in this reading is, it's not just about ourselves.
No.
That I can only really understand myself in relation to others. And so if I'm thinking about resistance, justice work is just this it's seemingly difficult, but human practice of paying attention to something other than myself for enough time. That where's God? Somewhere in between, in this larger context. What are you hearing, Keith?
A lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the resonant theme continues for me, which is what is, in principle and in theory, by God's design, community is his provision that welcomes and receives this diverse, motley bunch of humanoids that is able to refuse the fragmentation of their self and soul. Resistance via community is his provision to do that. The challenge is we all have a story where community has been complicit in the fragmentation. And so I think for me, the invitation is to not give way to what has become the norm, a kind of way of practicing community that prioritizes homogeneity, patriarchy, relating to one another at the level of the highest common denominator, you know what I mean? All of which rules out a kind of brokenness, a fierceness, a way of going about this work that is maybe a bit more radical. And we don't have to look far to know this, because this was part of the civil rights movement.
Yes, yeah.
There was a way in which Martin Luther and the presbytery thought if we center the woman's voice, it will discredit the movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it created all kinds of tension, even with Malcolm X, you know what I mean? Who was saying, no, you have to center the voice of Fannie Lou Hamer. She's unbridled. She is far more colorful. She's a bit more radical. You know what I mean? She's gonna shout when you would rather her be a bit more petite and polite. You know what I mean? And so I think I hear an invitation for the church to, not just the church, but to the degree that we are mindful of the role of the church, an invitation to own the way in which the very way we do community rules out this kind of fierce, radical, fiery, all of which are needed to do the work of justice.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If we rule that out, then we placating. We just being nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the church should be able to bring in, you know, those who are just, to paint a picture, if you will, those who have a bit more of that edgy hip hop energy that are contending.
Yes.
A little, those who have that grunge rock energy, but are contending. And where is the community that they can go and grow more into their full self? You know what I mean? To be more than just edge, but no less like fiery. And so I guess the question is where do those kinds of communities exist? And where they do not, can there be a willingness to own it and pivot? So
one of the things that in doing diversity work, justice work, I can actually say decades, one of the things that I have had to learn, right, is where in my head, sometimes I want to be that, here, let's go. Let's go, right? But sometimes I know the spaces that I might be invited to don't show up like that, right? Don't show up with the big earrings and the hair and braids.
That's it.
That's it. And the Afrocentric caftan. Don't show up like that, because if I show up like that, it's gonna be shut down.
That's
right?
it.
But and in knowing that's okay, right? That you can call it code switching. That's a part of like, look, using my social capital, whatever. What is the greater thing? The greater thing is getting the message across. So how do I create multiple highways? And that's always, multiple on ramps to this highway that I'm trying to do. If I need to be safe, Michelle, for you to be able to begin to listen, then I'll be safe, Michelle, so you can listen. And then we'll get to where it's safer for us both to be vulnerable. Then we can get to this other thing. So when you talk about, how do we, who's missing in community, and where are these communities? One of the surprising things, I would say the last 10 years for me, last 10 years for me, is to really pause to think about, where is the space for my white allies? Who are my white allies in the church, not the white allies who are outside the church, because they got all kinds of spaces, right? But the white allies who are in the church, because when people see them, in this particular season, there's an assumption of this white nationalism, evangelicalism, right? And if they're not like that, and they're trying to exist in the white spaces that used to be comfortable for them, often can't do it. And then I found myself asking, it's like, well, do I want to create space for them in my space? Woo!
That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
it. And it was a soft yes, and it started one time when one of my white male friends had come and said, Michelle, I trust you. You know, a Black woman has come to me and told me that I shouldn't be doing this anti-racism work or talking about racism because I'm part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should I stop?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you shouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Need your voice because you can be in places I can't be.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I need to create space in this
Yeah.
safe affinity group space that I have created for myself to be safe and to be my authentic self. Yeah. So, and I think so when I asked that question earlier for people who are thinking about being contemplative listeners or spiritual directors or walking alongside people, to ask yourself the question, are you willing to listen to anyone
Yeah.
or only to people who make you feel comfortable?
That's it.
And that's what this article to me is one that says, how comfortable. And if there's something like little, then you got to ask yourself, where is it coming from? And what are you going to do about it? I'm not saying everyone has to accept this, but in my own life, there are different places and things that I'm reading, right? There's some other works of hers that I read that's like, I don't know about that. But but I have to ask myself, where is it coming from?
How real can we get here?
Go ahead.
Wherever you want to go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I resonate with everything you said. I do. I do. And I think for my generation, I think there's a paced approach that we had to take and we're much more willing to take. I don't think that's the same with this younger generation. I don't know if they see a moderate community as a credible community wherein their radical, fiery quest for justice can be fostered and matured. I think because at the end of the day, we are talking about, even in our conversations and praxis for racial justice, there's a way in which we are still centering whiteness, white normativity, such that some environments are far more accommodating for white nationalist conversion than they would even be a brown-skinned, black-skinned person pushing against white nationalism. One would be perceived as a son come home, the other just radical.
Yeah.
And we have a history of treating the press against racial injustice in black body, brown skin as Marxist, a threat to society. But when a white person has a conversion moment, we sing songs. I once was lost, but now I'm found. We hailed them as noble characters and trusted voices. So I'm saying this is far more nuanced, and I think there is places where it needs to be paced. Especially, we don't know who's listening to this conversation, and wherever you are, your pace needs to be considered. Your context needs to be considered.
Awesome. Yes.
I just know that there is a younger generation that this is no longer an ambiguous reality. It is. We're seeing it politically, even with the radical Dems and the moderate Dems, and they're like, y'all ain't fighting hard enough.
Right.
We are not curious anymore about the harm. You know what I mean? And I see even within the church over the past 10 years, the flank in Christendom, young people who were more proximate to their peers by virtue of their age, their friends, the Trayvon Martins. This wasn't a news story. It happened in proximity generationally. They're dealing with all kinds of stuff in their lunchrooms. And so they're looking at a church and wondering, if I want to be about this work of belonging and inclusion in the cafeteria, where do I go? And I think in the absence of the church being that kind of community, a Charlie Kirk. becomes a safe
The
space.
vacuum.
That's
where
it.
he feels. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Absolute. It's whatever we think. It's a place of belonging.
It's a
Yeah.
place of
Right.
belonging.
Right.
And structure, right?
And
Belonging,
exactly.
structure, and the appearance of truth.
That's it. That's it. And it is. We got angst around this, and he is creating a space where we could bring that. And I think oftentimes the church community is a bit too safe in how we do or do not accommodate for it. But our generation, if you're late 40s and older, we've socialized different. We are disciples of a moderate approach, and I think that time has run its course in many ways. So,
Thank you. There's so much. We could probably spend the whole day just talking about this couple paragraphs.
Yes.
I want to pace this well. So is there any other thoughts, Cami, from anybody else before I offer some other thoughts? Underneath this, I think it's an interesting segue to our next episode, which will be Cami presenting. Just to seed that is Lament. So underneath all of this, listening to decenter requires me to go through the stages of lament. And I will name that the commonality here, the presumption of the white male dominant gaze is that you should conform to me, that you should translate yourself to me. And it's so broken that we then presume that all Black people are monolithic, that all women are monolithic. I need them in particular categories, but I appreciate the way you started this by saying, if I'm really listening, I'm not just going to this question of race. I'm looking underneath that at all the multivarious ways. So the way that, Keith, you were bringing out that the very unique sacred differences in each person. So then my lament and my research on toxic masculinity in the mode of white body supremacy, my lament is that my body for generations has tuned up our culture so that when I walk into a room as a 6'2", 200-pound white male, the temperature changes with anybody who's different than me. Just, it's all non-cognitive.
that's it.
It's unrecognized dirty pain that just my presence walking into a room signals trouble, condemnation, expectation. And again, that word presumption, it's conformity.
Yeah.
So I really, really appreciate this reading as a way to break open this conversation. I think it's prophetic and powerful. Do we know how to radically listen to the other and to see them? I think that comes back on us if we are grounded enough in our own healing to be able to create space for all of that. Often our fear in not being able to hold space for that is a reflection of our lack. So I just want to put a pin in that. Any other final thoughts before we finish?
Well, as you're saying that, and I can even feel it in my own body.
Yeah.
Right? There is something of a conversation like this that is like a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes time to chew on it, to pull out,
Yep.
and to let it digest. And so as we then again are thinking of others who may be listening to this conversation, there is something to say, take a breath.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Notice, right? And and if I'm feeling an edge of discomfort because I'm thinking into my own church spaces,
Yeah.
again, this is going to wash back on each of us
Yeah.
and on those listening. And so just to be able to say, it's all right to feel that, like maybe the ground shaking beneath you right now.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
okay. Take a breath.
We've been the four of us individually and then sometimes together, been working with these vocabularies for years, and it's still difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the word of compassion towards that healing and integration
Yeah.
is to pace it. So thank you.
Yep.
That's a fantastic word.
Push pause if you have to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Take a breath.
Right.
Take a walk.
Yes. Yeah. Shake it off a little. Like, woo, this is some time.
And we want to bear witness to is that you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
There is no more coercion. That's not going to help.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this. If it is the work of the Spirit, then you'll find a desire,
Yes.
as we were saying, to transgress those boundaries, to take that next step. But there is no rush. It is a slow, long work.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for diving into this reading. We are going to post these readings online. There'll be links in the show notes for you to find these. And we look forward to joining you for the next episode with Cami. Amen.
Amen.
So I could not have imagined a better introductory conversation, a better way to gather my friends and to sit down to share with you the things that are stirring in our hearts and minds, but the relationship between contemplation and justice and what this means spiritually and politically for the world that we're living in right now. Just yesterday, there was a piece published in the New York Times that connects for me where the rubber hits the road. From March 25th, the United States voted against a United Nations resolution this week to formally recognize the transatlantic slave trade as, quote, the gravest crime against humanity. The resolution, which was led by Ghana, urged UN member states to apologize for the slave trade and to contribute to a reparations fund. On Tuesday, before the vote, John Mahama, the president of Ghana, said that American schools were being discouraged from teaching about slavery and racism. He called the resolution, quote, a safeguard against forgetting. If that is not like a lightning rod that gets to the core of this capacity to have clear eyes, cleansed eyes. The Eastern Orthodox tradition teaches that weeping, repentance, can be a second baptism. It's a returning to our baptismal roots. That there is a natural grace and mercy that when we see ourselves and see the world that we're living in, that we're led to tears, because that is a sign of our dependence upon the mercy, the grace and the mercy of God. So that's one way for you to begin to imagine with us. The point of spiritual direction is contemplative listening, to listen to myself, to listen to God, and to listen to my neighbor, is to be able to see the world honestly without forgetting. If we were ever at a point in our culture, and especially within the church, where we needed to call each other to truth-telling, if there was ever a time for us to take a real clear, hard look at ourselves, I believe it's now. As I was just saying in my conversation with my friends here, we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. The question is if we have access to the grace, the mercy, and indeed the divine love that allows us to want to do this, to be able to see who we are in this world. It is a gift and an honor to have you listening and participating in this conversation. If you have questions or thoughts you want to add to the conversation, you can, again, email me. It's josh@theinvitationcenter.org. If you have interest in joining our study cohort, you can also declare your interest there as well. We'd love to have you as a subscribing participant in this podcast. There's also information there about how to subscribe to keep up on the latest episodes. Thanks for listening. It's good to know you. It's good to be with you. I hope and I pray that you are well wherever you are in this world. Amen.